Wells Fargo. Our support of Aggie students goes beyond just banking. By supporting News 22, we're giving back to the community. Wells Fargo. Together, we'll go far.
Tonight on News 22.
Marlene Barraza goes on a ride with one student on a highway where you must be careful.
Shelby Cap gives us an inside look back to the future at El Paso's old new streetcars.
And Adan Contreras introduces us to the new director of the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley.
News 22 starts now.
Serving southern New Mexico, this is the award-winning KRWG-TV News 22, where news matters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Hover.
And I'm Shelby Cap. With the beautiful weather, many people may have partying in mind.
So Las Cruces police say it's time to check it out. All during April, they will set up sobriety checkpoints and saturation patrols. The checkpoints are intended to reduce the number of drunk drivers. Officers will also look for other violations, such as drivers using cell phones and failing to properly use seatbelts and child safety seats. We can see the reason for the checkpoints in a couple of recent arrests. Police say 19-year-old Matthew Maldonado is charged with aggravated DWI after he crashed into a shed on his property. Maldonado was taken into custody but released the same day. And a Hatchman is behind bars and charged with a DWI and 2 counts of abuse. Police say 30-year-old Leonardo Granandos was drunk driving while his 2 young sons were in the car. The children were turned over to their mother. Granandos is in the Doña Ana County Jail without bond.
Even if the driver is not drunk, there are some sections of highway that are dangerous.
News 22's Marlene Barraza shows us one stretch of the road between Interstate 10 and Chaparral, New Mexico. It's a dangerous road that carries lots of traffic.
Highway to Hell is my go-to Gap song.
Every day, Julio Torres commutes to NMSU on Highway 404. He's done it for 3 years now. 404 is also known as the Anthony Gap. Julio is just one of hundreds who travel this road every day, coming from I-10 to Chaparral, New Mexico. It's just 2 lanes, and when traffic gets heavy, drivers in a hurry are told to be careful.
They tell you that you can pass, but in reality you can't see what's coming towards you because it's a hill. So by the time you're already passing, surprise, there's this other car coming towards you.
Once another driver tried to pass him and 3 other cars on a hill, but a semi-truck was coming straight ahead.
And she wasn't gonna make it. It's in those moments where you're you're not gonna make it, and she just kept on going.
Instead of playing it safe, the driver got on the emergency shoulder and passed everyone. Eventually, she got back into the correct lane.
If you think about it, is it really worth the risk? Being late? I'd rather be late than sorry,
Sergeant Scott Merrill says Anthony Gap is dangerous, especially when drivers are in a hurry, impatient, reckless, or drunk.
A lot of people get impatient, want to pass the slower vehicles, and we have some pretty horrific crashes out there.
Just like Julio, many drive through this dangerous route every day. And state police that patrols this highway has a few tips for those daily and nightly commuters.
It's just all about leaving earlier and understanding that everybody that's on that road has somewhere to get, and you need to have some patience.
Drivers also need to know the rules of the road and pay attention to speed limit and not pass signs. Both hands should be on the wheel and all focus should be on the road. Sergeant Merrill says if you can avoid the Anthony Gap, you should. If you can't, you need to start your day earlier.
You just need to give yourself more time to get somewhere so you don't have to be in such a hurry to put yourself in danger to go into oncoming traffic. Where you have 3,000 pound vehicles going head on, much worse than a bullet coming at you.
Because gaining an extra few seconds or a minute is not a good trade for an eternity. I'm Marlene Barraza for News 22.
So it's finally spring, and you know what that means? Wind.
You can always count on southern New Mexico and winds this time of year.
And Nicole will tell us more about that with weather.
Hi everyone, thanks guys. Today we have some clear skies with a temperature of 80 degrees, winds coming in from the southwest at 16 miles per hour. Our humidity is currently at 10%, our dew point at 18 degrees, and our barometer remains at 29.88 inches. Today we had a high temperature of 84 degrees, a low of 54 with an average of 75. We did hit a record high in 1972 with 88 degrees and a record low of 42 degrees in 1970. There was no rain today, so that leaves our yearly precipitation at 0.81 inches. Now back to the desk with more news.
New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez agrees with the Trump administration's plan to send the National Guard to the border. And her spokesperson said she agrees with using the New Mexico National Guard. Martinez often has framed immigration issues as a matter of public safety and has advocated close cooperation between local law enforcement and customs. But leaders of the New Mexico human rights groups are condemning the president's decision to place National Guard troops at the border. At the same time, they say that Trump's administration is escalating its war on immigrants and border communities. One of the leaders says the plan is inhumane and wasteful. It's dangerous and to the 15 million people who call the borderlands home.
Borderland sheriffs are at the center of the border issue, and soon lots of those sheriffs will be in Las Cruces. The Doña Ana County Sheriff will host the Border Sheriff's Coalition. The coalition is made up of 31 sheriff's departments from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. It will begin April 9th at the Ramada Hotel in Las Cruces and will end April 11th. This year's guest speaker is Steve Cook. He is the Director of Law Enforcement Affairs for the U.S. Department of Justice. A Vado man is behind bars today after allegedly setting fire to his mobile homes. David Mesa was identified on the property shortly before the fires broke out around 2 Monday afternoon. The two mobile homes reported used to belong to Mesa's grandparents. Mesa had an ongoing feud about who would own the property after his grandparents had passed away. Mesa is being held in jail and is charged with 2 counts of arson and 1 count of resisting or obstructing.
A Las Cruces woman is charged with assault and battery, is still behind bars. 25-year-old Sofia Bajina is accused of ramming her ex-boyfriend's car several times after he broke up with her. She will remain in jail without bond until the motion hearing at the Judicial District Court.
We may think that driverless vehicles are a thing of the distant future, but we may be seeing them within the next 10 years. Local officials and technology experts say legislators need to understand the technology before making changes to laws. Semi-autonomous vehicles are already running on New Mexico roads. On I-10 from Los Angeles to El Paso, semi-autonomous trucks are on the highway. New Mexico is getting prepared for the day driverless vehicles hit the roadways. While driverless vehicles are a thing of the future, El Paso is going back in time for its newest form of public transportation.
It won't be long until the historic streetcars will be traveling through downtown El Paso, and I went there to check them out.
For the first time in 40 years, streetcars are rolling on the streets of El Paso. This is a video from the first test run on Tuesday night. It's one of the 6 streetcars that will be in El Paso by November. Back in the day, these cars made a loop throughout downtown El Paso and Juarez. These are the very same cars bringing back memories.
Mom and my grandma would come over to El Paso. I grew up in Juarez. We'd come over to El Paso on the streetcar. They would do their shopping, and eventually we'd do the downtown area and then head back to Juarez. And it was a really cool trip. For me, it's very nostalgic, bringing these streetcars back.
This is the only car here at the moment. The other 5 will be coming in shortly and undergo testing before they hit the streets.
And once the streetcars are ready for operation, they'll head out right here on Santa Fe Street and carry people all throughout downtown El Paso.
This is going to bring back one of the big attractions that El Paso used to be known for. The hope is to attract tourists and residents to see what the downtown has to offer.
People of El Paso should be very proud because this is the only startup in the United States that is bringing historic cars.
One concern is the safety of the cars operating in congested streets.
Cars have been in many cities in the United States for more than 100 years, so it's not a new technology.
He says he knows it will take time for some people to adjust to the streetcars, but to help, the Sun Metro has started an outreach program with animated videos and brochures to educate the new generation about this old technology. Shelby Cap, News 22.
And from what I saw, the trolleys are completely original and can take you back to a time of El Paso from a long time ago. And stay tuned, Nicole will be back with your national forecast.
And up next, Adon Contreras introduces us to one Las Crucean with a heart for animals. More on that when News 22 continues.
At a recent KRWG coffee visit, we talked with KRWG fans about why they value public media.
The fact that you're here in TRC says a lot to me, that you're interested in our community.
KRWG is my major source of information and entertainment.
Please support public radio. If not for yourself, do it for me.
Become a member online at krwg.org or call 1-888-922-5794. Thank you.
This month in Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS.
I left my heart. I can count on the fingers of one hand the people who have shaped my life.
These and other shows are available with Passport. Become a member of this PBS station, sign in, and start streaming today.
Welcome back. You're watching News 22 Thursday,
where news matters. There's a new man in town who's trying to make life better for our pets. He's the new director of the Animal Service Center on the Mesilla Valley.
As News 22's Adon Contreras reports, he's anxious to get settled and become part of the community.
This is Clinton Thacker, and in his arms is one of the many reasons he is here in Las Cruces. He was hired back in November to be the new director of the Mesilla Valley Animal Service Center. Thacker was previously the Animal Care and Control Director at Davis County in Layton, Utah, before coming to Mesilla Valley. And one big difference he has noticed since coming to Las Cruces is the weather.
In the 20s and the 30s there in Layton, Utah, where I'm from, and here it's in the high 60s and even the 80s. So definitely loving the weather.
Thacker was a 2008 graduate from the University of Phoenix, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business management. Thacker has many goals for the Animal Service Center, and one main goal is to make the shelter a no-kill shelter by the year 2019.
So some steps we have in place to do that is we have a very aggressive transfer program where we transfer animals out of the center into other areas of New Mexico and also to partners throughout the United States. Last year we did over 3,000 animals, and this year we're looking to hopefully hit about 4,500.
The other employees at the Animal Center have already noticed a positive change between Thacker and the previous director.
Ever since he started, he kind of brought everybody closer together, kind of broke the shell of being like kind of scared to say anything, scared to ask questions. With him, he's very open.
While Thacker is here in New Mexico, he has had to adjust to not seeing his family as often, as they have stayed in Layton, Utah, so his children can finish out the school year.
I haven't adjusted. I don't like it at all. Yeah. Right now I have a little 2-bedroom apartment, and I'm used to a house that has, 7 kids in it, and my wife, and all the noise and everything that goes along with that, and it's just so quiet.
Since Thacker took over, there have been more rescues, less euthanasia, and more adoptions. Whatever he has done in the short amount of time he has been here, it is definitely working, and it is helping animals find a loving home. I'm Adon Contreras, News 22.
One of the issues underlying much of the political debate today is the changing culture of the United States. The country is becoming more diverse. Today, NMSU's Counseling and Educational Psychology Department hosted the Multicultural Research Symposium. The theme of the conference is to look at race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and other factors to determine how they affect individual lives and culture.
Historically, we have been talking about diversity and multiculturalism in a more dichotomous, one at a time. But this year, we are trying to immerse all these different aspects of diversity, try to understand how those interact and how those are dynamic. It's not static experience.
Much of the conference included reporting on scientific papers and oral presentations. And Nicole is next with your weather.gov national forecast.
Thanks, guys. Starting east in Buffalo and Boston, they're pretty cold at 34 and 42 degrees. Going down south, we're getting a lot warmer in Albuquerque and El Paso at 73 and 86 degrees. And over here in the west, we have Seattle at a nice cool 53 degrees and Los Angeles at a slightly warmer 69 degrees. But taking a look at my next map, we could see the different conditions across the United States, and that would be, we can see what is making the north so chilly, and that would be these chill eases coming in from the west. And we'll be back after the break with more with your local forecast.
Here and now, NPR News middays, weekday afternoons from noon to 2 on 90.7 FM and streaming live on KRWG.org.
Next time on Soundbreaking. The ones I love the best are the groovers. The quest for the perfect beat.
Like doom, 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 doom. Mono.
Friday at 9 p.m. on KRWG-TV.
Next time on A Chef's Life.
So today is pub day for my book, and then our tour will begin.
My launch dinner is at Bon Appetit magazine.
I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm stressed out.
Vivian Howard.
What's your broccoli dish? I buy broccoli every single time I go to the grocery store.
Thank you. Do you have any broccoli on the menu?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do?
I'll be having that.
Saturday morning at 10 on KRWG-TV.
Hello everybody, welcome back to News 22 where news matters. Looking at our local temperatures, Farmington right here is at 65 degrees, Gallup 66, Albuquerque 71, Ruidoso at 67, and Deming at 78. And for tomorrow, we have Farmington at 70 degrees, Gallup at 72, Santa Fe at 68, Socorro at 82 degrees, Ruidoso at 69, and Deming at 83 degrees. For our neighboring city of Alamogordo, tonight we have a low of 54 degrees, partly cloudy, and tomorrow we have a very sunny day at 84 degrees. For Truth or Consequences, tomorrow we have a low of 51 degrees, partly cloudy, and a sunny day of 85. And in Silver City, tonight we have a low of 47 and a high of 71. And in Las Cruces, tonight we have partly cloudy skies with a low of 54 and a very sunny day tomorrow at 84 degrees. Now we're going to head back to the desk with Zach and Shelby for more news.
Health officials say patients who had surgery at a Denver hospital may have been exposed to HIV.
That's the first story in tonight's Southwest Minute.
The Colorado Department of Public Health says Porter Hospital did a bad job cleaning surgical instruments, and that may have put patients at risk for surgical infections and exposure to hepatitis and HIV. Patients who underwent surgery from July 2016 through February of this year are at risk. In March, the hospital revised its procedures and passed its latest inspection. Search for missing kids in a mysterious seaside car crash in Mendocino, California have been suspended. Heavy rain is expected in the area over the next few days. A family SUV crashed on a rocky shoreline below a cliff last month. The bodies of a couple and 3 adopted children were found in and near the vehicle on March 26th, but 3 other kids are still missing. Searchers haven't found them. The sheriff says no one was wearing a seatbelt and he's calling it a crime. A Houston judge sentenced a man convicted of looting during Hurricane Harvey to 20 years in prison. 38-year-old Thomas Gamelin stole $5,200 worth of televisions and cigarettes from a Walmart that was closed during last summer's storm. A police officer saw Gamelin carrying a television. Surveillance also showed him stealing from the store. Gamelin was on parole for a drug conviction at the time of the crime. I'm Amanda Adame with the Southwest Minute.
I hear there's some news in Aggie women's sports today.
You're right, and Kristen will be next to tell us in sports.
Thanks, guys. Coming up in sports, the NMSU women's tennis team will be competing for the league title this weekend. We'll be right back with News 22 Sports.
Coming up on Austin City Limits.
Saturday at 9 p.m. on KRWG-TV.
Sunday at 11 p.m. on KRWG-TV.
Backstage Pass. This is KRWG-TV News 22 Sports.
Welcome back. I'm Kristen Mastretta, and let's talk sports. New Mexico State softball is preparing to host its first conference contest against CSU Bakersfield this weekend. The Aggies are currently 18-15 overall on the season and 3-0 in conference play. The Aggies will open the series with a game on Friday night at the New Mexico State softball complex. Then on Saturday, they will play the Bakersfield Runners in a doubleheader. The first pitch will be at 4 p.m. The New Mexico State baseball team will also be competing against CSU Bakersfield this weekend. This will be the Aggies' first road trip in Western Athletic Conference play. The first game is on Friday at 7 p.m. The second game will be on Saturday at 7, and the third game will be on Sunday at 1. All three games will be at the Hart Field. To watch the games from here in Las Cruces, you can stream all of them on the WAC Digital Network. The New Mexico State women's tennis team is on their way to face off for their second WAC cluster hosted by Seattle U. The results from this weekend will determine the regular season champion and the WAC tournament's #1 overall seed. For their first match, they will be playing Seattle U on Friday at 2 p.m. Their next match will be on Saturday against UT Rio Grande Valley. Their third and final match will be against UMKC on Sunday. And if the Aggies win their first two matches, they will be battling for the league title in the third match. The WAC tournament will be April 27th through the 29th. High school baseball is back in action this weekend. The Mayfield Trojans and Centennial Hawks will be facing off tomorrow at 5 p.m. at Centennial High School. The Oñate Knights will be playing Deming for an at-home non-conference game tomorrow at 5 p.m. And the Las Cruces Bulldogs will be taking on Carlsbad in an away conference game also at 5 p.m. tomorrow. And that's all for sports tonight. Join us for more sports action next week. Still ahead on News 22, Nicole will be back to take a look at your 5-day forecast. But first, a 70s TV hero is getting wondrous praise. More on that when News 22 continues.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow.
So it's a lithograph by Salvador Dali. There are a lot of forgeries of his work. We all know that.
Really?
That's pretty.
Didn't know
Except
that.
for you.
Is it real? Find out next time on Antiques Roadshow from Portland, Oregon.
Monday at 7 p.m. on KRWG-TV.
It was the hostile takeover of the Republican Party.
The fight between the president and his own party.
Don't mess with Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't forget.
Somebody needs to stand up and say, this is not our party. This is not normal.
Tuesday at 9 p.m. on KRWG-TV.
Let's take a look at our top stories. Marlene Barraza gave us tips on how to be safe when commuting through the Anthony Gap. I took you to downtown El Paso to get a first look at the new trolleys. And Adon Contreras introduced us to the new director of the Mesilla Valley Animal Shelter, whose main goal is to make the shelter no-kill.
The original Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame yesterday. The 66-year-old actress starred as the title character on the TV show during its run from 1975 to 1979. The star was on the 2017 Wonder Woman movie. Gal Gadot paid tribute to Carter on Twitter. She wrote, "Thank you for your loving kindness, shared by the Sisterhood of Wonder Woman." Now let's take a look at our...
Now we're going to take a look at our 5-day forecast for today. And tomorrow we have mostly sunny skies. We're going to look at some temperatures in the mid to low 80s. We're going to have a very, very sunny week, but keep in mind that it is going to be pretty windy and that there is a fire weather warning. So be careful when you go outside. Be sure not to get blown away.
You can catch all of today's aired stories and past newscasts on our YouTube page at youtube.com/KRWG News22.
And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat for show updates and the latest on what News22 team is up to. And that's all we have for News22 Thursdays. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Tune in next week as we take a look at stories from across the Southwest. I'm Shelby Cab.
I'm Zach Covert.
I'm Nicola Verrett. Good night.
Good night.
This news brief in Español is brought to you by Noticias 22, Spanish language news for southern New Mexico and West Texas. Noticias 22.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Los saluda con gusto Adilenia Archuleta en este breve informativo de Noticias 22. Un hombre ha sido arrestado por la policía de Doña Ana luego de intentar darse a la fuga tras supuestamente incendiar 2 propiedades por una discusión familiar. Se trata de David Mesa, de 35 años de edad. El incendio sucedió este pasado lunes en la cuadra 100 de McCrimmon Road en Vado, Nuevo México. Según testigos, vieron a Mesa en la propiedad momentos antes de que el incendio comenzara. Este incidente dejó una pérdida de propiedad de aproximadamente $55,000. Mesa se encuentra fichado en el centro de detención de Doña Ana con cargos de incendio premeditado y un cargo de resistencia, actualmente sin derecho a fianza. Se ha presentado un nuevo tipo de estafa por medio de llamadas telefónicas, en el condado de Doña Ana. El departamento del sheriff informa que han recibido varias quejas por parte de los residentes, quienes afirman que al contestar se puede escuchar la voz de una mujer en medio de gritos y llanto, asegurando que se trata de algún familiar para luego pedir dinero por diversos motivos y pidiendo a la víctima que le haga una transacción por medio de tarjetas de cuentas de banco. Todos los detalles se los presentamos en el noticiero completo para Noticias 22, Adilenia Archuleta.
Local support for a portion of today's programming is provided by Wells Fargo. Our support of Aggie students goes beyond just banking. By supporting News 22, we're giving back to the community. Wells Fargo. Together, we'll go far.